Hey guys. All right. Hello everybody. Welcome everybody to the webinar. Thank you guys all so much for joining. My name is Alec Torelli. Been a high stakes poker player for the last 10 years and doing coaching for the last 5 as well. I travel the world full time playing poker and specialize mainly in high stakes cash games. Been living in Macau for the last 3 years. And yeah, it's a little bit about me for everybody that's just meeting me for the first time or joining for the first time. So thank you for being here. All right, so thanks to everyone that joined. I got a chance to talk with a few of you before this. I received a ton of great feedback from this last time, so I'm going to try and make this a weekly thing or a more regular thing. And yeah, it was a lot of fun last time, so thank you everyone that joined last time, and thanks for making this possible again. So I think that I received a lot of questions. Last time we were kind of all over the place with different subjects and different things going on. Everything is open game this week. It's kind of like an open forum, ask me anything, which is here having a conversation, especially with the guys in the chat. Otherwise, if you're watching live on YouTube, feel free to post questions on there, and if there's some extra time, I'll try to get to those as well. Try to be here for like an hour, hour and a half today, so I'm going to try to get to as much of you as possible. But the one thing that I think I heard the most about in terms of feedback, in terms of pain points, in terms of things that I feel like people were struggling with and they had questions on, was bankroll and bankroll management things. So I think that's going to be where the priorities go in terms of questions. If you do have multiple questions, if you want to ask the one that has to do with that subject, if it hasn't already been asked before, if it's something I haven't already addressed, I think that'll be a cool place to go to and start. So that's kind of my theme here, if we have one at all. Again, anything's fair game, so one thing too, guys, no worries if you're on the phone. It's your own time too, but just if you mute your mic if you have something else to do, it would help everybody else in the webinar to keep the communication channels clear here. So thanks in advance for that, guys. Yeah, so to the guys that joined, I want to give you guys as much time as possible. I have some material here that I could cover that I think is cool, that would help, but I feel like I could give much more direct feedback, and if you guys have questions already that you want to shoot to me, I was hoping to start with that, and then I feel like other people will have the same questions as well. So I can answer your guys' comments first and go from there. So any subject's fair game. If someone has something specifically on bankroll management, that would be a cool place to start. But yeah, just someone throw up a hand. First one I see, go ahead, and just don't be shy. You guys are here. It's your time. I'm here to help you guys. So any questions that you guys have that you would like answered on that or any subject, go ahead. I want to open this up to you guys right away. Nobody. All right. You guys are a little shy. There you go. Dustin, what's up, man? Take over. Tell us something about yourself and where you're from and who you are, and some fun fact that the world needs to know about Dustin. Seriously.
All right. Quick fact. I played online poker for 9 years, and I just recently got out of poker because I don't know, my confidence, I switched to cash games like at the worst time, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when everyone who moved out of the States moved to Costa Rica, Brazil. So I was playing against like 15 regs on Stars, Zoom, and I just wasn't going anywhere. And for like the last year and a half, I haven't made much money, so I decided to move to San Diego and for the weather and the beaches and just try to find a job. Just kind of live life somewhat fulfilling, doing some fun things, going to the beach, yoga, beach volleyball, stuff like that. But I've been thinking about getting back into poker because I've been here 2 months, and finding a job is tough, man, especially since I was self-employed. I don't have much work experience, you know what I mean?
For sure.
So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Cool.
So I have a $1,000 bankroll. If I was to play, where would you think? Like, I guess I can only play on this in the States, so I'm not sure what site I would get on. But what would you suggest there, as far as playing?
Okay, is your goal to play online or to play live?
You know, I haven't played much live. In the live that I've played, unfortunately, people always tell me I have tells, and so I've always gotten called down in big pots and stuff. And I actually, you know, it's nice that they tell me that, but then I don't know what it is. So like, I've stayed away from live. So like, yeah, if I have tells, I mean, I'm gonna get beat up in games, right? So I try to stay away from live.
Yeah, that's fair. The other thing about live poker is that the size of the games are so much bigger, and
Exactly.
so if you're somewhat constricted by your bankroll limitations, I feel like if you decide to play live for whatever reason, then
Hmm.
you have to just accept that $1,000 is very vulnerable and it's very at risk. And so no matter what advice I sort of give you, aside from selling a lot of your actions so that you're playing relatively smaller, so that $1,000 goes further, because maybe you only play with 20% of your own action, so that relatively you're playing 1/5 of the size game that you would be playing in the casino. Because if you go into a 2-5 game in a casino with $500 buy-in, the math says that even if you're the best player in the world, you're likely to experience greater than a 2 buy-in downswing at some point. So
Sure.
you're afraid to go broke, and that's not like really strong situational advice I'd like to give you. So number one would be to, I know you said you wanted to stay away from live, but learning to just saying, hey, I have tells that I'm never going to be able to win, isn't really like a lasting mindset. It's like, okay, I have this problem. How do I address and fix this problem so that I can succeed and thrive in the environment where I could make the most money, the most ROI, and have the most balance and fun? And I think live poker, especially in San Diego, you have the, what's it called? I've been there. The casino in San Diego, I've been there. I don't even know what it's called.
There's one Ocean's 11 that has the most tables, I think. I've only been
Yeah.
once.
Yeah, you have Ocean's 11, you have another casino down there, I forgot the name, but there's plenty of live poker down there, and that could be an option for you. You could get backed, you could get staked, those could be options. But I think overcoming your weaknesses live is something that you're going to have to get used to doing in order to excel. Today it's a tell, tomorrow it's hand range analysis, and then after that it's your confidence or whatever it is that's holding you back. But there's always going to be something that you're going to need to battle through in order to get that breakthrough to the next level. So today it's day one. It's this thing that's holding you back, whatever it is. What it is isn't really that important. It's how you handle it. So I would say don't use that as a limitation. And if you want to play live, try and play with a smaller percentage of the money and sometimes sell action or get staked or keep the game relatively the same size that it would be online. That being said, if you're going to play online, I can't speak extremely intelligently about like what site I would recommend for you to play on in California specifically. I know Bovada is illegal. I can't like vouch for the honorability of any online poker website at the time, so I can't like say that this site is. I endorse this particular site. I just know what the options are. But you can definitely play online, and the advantage of that, of course, is that you could play for much smaller space, so you don't have to deal with that staking, that backing, and you have the conveniences of online poker. That being said, I would try and play something like, I don't know, 25 cent, 50 cent, or something like that. You want to give yourself like that, and that's kind of tight. Like you might want to play even 10 cent, 25 cents, so that you have more buy-ins. Like 40 buy-ins is pretty nice. So you're going to get right in that wheelhouse with that amount of money.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Definitely. I think the thing is, though, to keep in mind here is like don't use that sort of whatever, like that barrier that you're seeing as what's going to stop you. Because like realistically, if the fact you have a tell is going to stop you from succeeding at live poker, then you're doomed before you start. There's bigger hurdles you're going to face in the future, so that's just part of the game.
All right, thanks, man.
For sure. The last thing I would say on that note, and this is more of a general thing to a lot of people in a bankroll management situation, is we could speak about like theory, like hey, how many buy-ins do you need for a cash game, or how many, what's the variance I'm going to expect to experience when I'm playing poker, like how much money do I need to never go broke, and those things are important to know from a theoretical standpoint, but you live in the real world, and so you can adjust how volatile, how aggressive you want to be, or how conservative you want to be based on the absolute amount of money that you're risking. So it's good to know the theory. It's good to know, how many buy-ins you need to give yourself a chance of outlasting the luck. But in conjunction with that, you have to modify your aggression or risk based on how much money you're risking relative to your personal situation. So, Dustin, I'll use it as an example, not to put you on the spot, but if you're talking about an amount of $1,000, if you bust that amount by being too aggressive, well, yes, you might have made improper bankroll management decisions, but realistically, it's not that much of an inhibitor to your life because that money is still money that you could earn back in the real world. And in the real world, if you have a job or whatever, it's $1,000. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's a fixed amount that you either have somewhere else in your life or you could earn back relatively easily. So if you bust that bankroll by being too aggressive, it's not that catastrophic, and you sort of are in a spot where you have everything to gain and really not that much to lose. So the principle here to keep in mind is as your money grows bigger, as you accumulate more of a bankroll, the more you have to shift the strategy away from aggression and towards conservation. So let's add 5 zeros. Let's say you have a $100,000 bankroll. Now, in this situation, it's money that could be earned in the real world, but it's really hard to save up $100,000 specifically for poker. And now you want to be much more conservative with that money because it has real practical value. And gaining additional money doesn't help you as much as losing money hurts you. Because if you go from 100,000 to 200,000, your poker playing ability is relatively similar. You can still play the 5-10 or the 10-20 game at your local casino. You can still do a lot of things. Your life is pretty good with that bankroll. You want to start to conserve and protect that. You don't want to bust it. And so somewhere in the middle is where you shift from aggression, which like your $1,000 spot. Hey man, if you bust it playing live poker, whatever. Like maybe you save up for what does it mean for you? It means that you wait another 2 months, you allocate another $1,000 to poker, and you try again, or whatever it is. It's not the end of the world. But if you bust that 100,000, mentally that might set you back. God knows how long. But also in the real world, it's really hard to earn that money. Depending on your life situation. So that's sort of like my macro bankroll management strategy that I think, Dustin, you as well as everybody else has to apply as your bankroll grows or shrinks.
Cool. Yeah, that's nice. Thanks, man.
Of course.
I understand that. It's great.
Thanks for joining. I love San Diego, too. I was born and raised in Orange County. I told everyone the same fact. So I was born and raised in Orange County. I've been to San Diego many times. Almost moved there. All right, my man from Macau, Hiachu is from Macau. So, what's up, man? You have a question? Shoot.
Yeah. So, what about if we're at that $100,000 bankroll phase? I think I got the problem of fear of losing the 100,000 you just talked about.
Yeah.
Hello?
So what? Well, you're in a good spot, my man. That's congrats.
Well, I worked before, so I saved up. But so I played the lowest live stakes, and I do win. I make enough money for day to day. But then the fear of losing that big sum of bankroll actually is kind of stopping me from moving up.
Yeah. So I mean. Okay, so you're in a great financial spot, and you're in Macau. So obviously, the smallest game there is 2550.
Yeah.
So 2550 Hong Kong, which
of course
in the U.S. is, I'm just converting for the people in the U.S. is like $3, $6 no limit with a $600 buy-in. So you're extremely overrolled for your game, and while it's valuable to be conservative, at some point, you're not really challenging yourself or utilizing your money the best way possible because you're missing out on a lot of expectation with your bankroll. Like, most people are not in your spot. Number one, because they don't have the bankroll that they have that money, and number two, the biggest problem I experience with my clients and a lot of my readers that come to me is that they have too aggressive of a bankroll management system, and that leads them to going broke habitually. And I'm sure a lot of you could resonate with this here or watching that. The common mistakes you probably made in your poker career is that, shoot, I was too aggressive. I shouldn't have blew that $14,000 bankroll I ran up on Ultimate Bet before Black Friday, and now I'm like, damn, it's hard to earn that money back, and whatever, right? That's like this. I had $1 for every time I heard that, whatever. So in your spot, and this is not advice I give to everyone. It's definitely a particular situation to you, but you are limiting your ability to grow by being too conservative. So like money aside, you're in a situation where you benefit a lot more from developing your talent than you do from increasing your net worth, right? Because your daily life in Macau is probably not that much different whether you have 100,000 or 150,000. Like tomorrow, you're going to get up whenever you want, you're going to eat whatever you want, you're going to do whatever you want, and whatever, you know. You might not buy a new Petit Philippe, but like that's icing on the cake, right? Like your life is pretty cool if you work for yourself with $100,000 chilling in Macau. So I would say that like the biggest thing you need to develop now is your talent, and you're limiting your ability to develop talent when you're playing at 25-50 in Macau. Like you need to be playing 50-100. That being said, like if you're concerned, and I totally get it about risking all the money you have, like why don't we say, hey, let's take like 15,000 of the 100 and take a shot at 50-100. Like that's plenty of money to last you for a while at 50-100. And if you lose it, like your life is no different, man. You have 85,000. You're still doing like the same sort of thing. You go back to, if you really are uncomfortable or you lose your confidence, you go back to the 25-50 and you wait till you earn it back and you go back. But like I think taking intermittent shots at the 50-100 game when the game is good, and that 50-100 game in Macau is pretty damn good. So you can play there pretty frequently. The other thing, and this is particular to you in Macau, is that the rake is the same at the 25-50 as it is the 50-100. So the effective rake is half the 50-100 because the percentage goes down with odd size. So your win rate should go up, assuming the competition is the same, which there's not too many of the regs at that 50-100. I know they jump into the 100-200 game, which that's going to be where you're hitting a little more with the high school, college basketball players type of level. But the 50-100 there is great, man. You should have no trouble beating that game. And if you have, you also have a huge network of people that you could work with in Macau. Like there's so many excellent poker players there that you can meet with. It just make friends with people at the 51 game because you are who you hang out with. Donald Trump says that your net worth is the average of the 5 people closest to you. So your skill set in poker is the median of the 5 closest people whom you talk strategy with. So start talking to the people that you want to become like. Start hanging out with the people whom you want to be like. Surround yourself with the players that you respect, and find a way to thrive in that new environment.
I'm not sure if you read my email on the circle of friends question.
Yeah, remind me really quick, because I'm sure some of the other people have the same question.
Yeah, the Chinese culture is a little bit different. People don't actually share what they really think about the game. It is like they want to hide the last trick that they can beat you at the end,
Yeah,
while I do talk about strategy a lot with friends, and I do off the table work, and a lot of people, when I talk to them, they just tell me, I just want to outplay this guy. I just feel like they don't have anything, and that's the reason I got for them making that move or something. I say, dude, I can't learn anything from these kind of discussions. I would rather do range analysis and like, do you know what equity you have at this spot, and things like that, right? They don't really talk in these terms that I understand. Yeah, so maybe I don't get
that's probably
enough with them. I don't understand. I don't know.
Sure, and that's probably like one of the other biggest pain points I feel like a lot of my readers have is that like there's not really a close circle that people could interact with of other players who are talented and successful, or that they look up to, or that they could even be on par with, where they can like have a close group that is someone they could actually talk poker with and learn from and be inspired by and like lift each other up to higher standards. And I feel like in my career I was having that system around me throughout different points in my career, especially when I started in, when I went my first tournament in the Bahamas. I was 18 and I met Tom Dwan and Andrew Roble, David Benefield, a lot of Dustin Dirkston, some guys that you probably don't know that were great at the time, and that helped me throughout my career, and that I still remain close with today. That like really were responsible for each other, like building each other up to be better. So I get why that's really important. But so a few things. I mean, like, I'm trying to focus on like big picture stuff that everyone else could take away. as well. But like in general, in your specific situation, I'll give you one more quick pointer, is that there's a lot of Westerners that are there in Macau that play the 51 game too, so you could talk to plenty of people. I mean, look, you're in a better spot than 95% of people that play poker. I mean, you're in the biggest poker hub in the world. So, I mean, you should be able to find. If you can't find a way to communicate with successful players in Macau, then like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, there should be a way, right? You're smart, you're charming, you speak good English, like, you have all your hair. I mean, go talk to people. I don't know. Like, you're in a good spot, But like other people that aren't necessarily in that situation, I get that that's a huge thing, and I'm trying to build a community of people where like we have something like that, where I can have everybody kind of together that is learning through a similar process. Like, hey, this is what we're going to do this week, or this is what we're going to do that week, and maybe we have these webinars more often, or some product or service I offer where like I bring that community together so that people can learn virtually, because that works really well as well. But yeah, it's definitely something that's hard to come by, and making friends online is always possible through forums and other things. But I mean, you're in a spot where you're thriving on your own now, so to not thrive the most you can on your own, or to be like, well, I don't have people I can talk with, I'm just going to continue, plateauing where I am at the game, is like, why don't if your situation doesn't change by trying, then you're still thriving in the environment you are now. There's no reason to think you won't going forward. But I definitely get that being a struggle point. So give it a shot, man. You can always go back. So moving on, I want to get to everybody in here. Anybody else have questions? Yeah, Rick is from North Carolina. What's up, Rick?
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's no real casinos like anywhere near here. The nearest place I play is like Maryland Live in Maryland, or at the Harrah's in Philly. There's just some neighborhood games, some real small stake stuff, 25-cent, 50-cent cash, or some neighborhood tournament stuff. But so my biggest thing is when I get there and I'm playing, I've been told to take notes and write down my hand histories. And I've got a notebook that I've set up with hand, position, stacks, the blinds, and then all the action that comes down. But mostly it seems real awkward to pull that thing out right after a hand and jot down all the notes. And then, of course, at the end of the night, you've played a couple hundred hands, and you can't really remember anything but those bad beats that maybe you lost half your stack on, and you'll never forget. But so my question for you was, when you're playing live, how do you capture your hand histories? Do you use an app, or do you write them down on a notepad? And do you actually capture 100% of the information that you might see on, some of these guys put out on Share My Pair? I get the feeling that a lot of times they're just filling in some of the blanks, which is fine. I guess the most important thing really is just the cards, the table, and the general size of the bets. So I guess my question is just if you have any advice on easier ways to record your hand histories playing live, and yeah, so that's my question.
For sure. So, well, a few things. I think that number one is I think a lot of you should strive to make this an exercise, because you improve by practicing. Is my ability to recollect hands and details is very good. My wife would be the first to tell you I don't remember a lot of things, but hand histories are something I remember every detail of. So as a poker player, if that's going to be your focus, you should be able to recall hands poker. Like, I could probably tell you some hands I played when I went to Verona when I was 18. Like, if you asked me what I had in a certain hand, I could probably tell you like a lot of hand histories. I might not be able to tell you like all the stack sizes and stuff, but I feel like you should have a good hand recollection, and that should be just something that happens through focus and like intensity and presence at the table. You're just constantly focused on what you're doing, and you're not really distracted by your cell phone and other things that are going on. And that's something that you got to make like a meditation to sort of practice, like sort of like someone practicing a spelling bee practices, spelling crazy numbers, like repeating numbers or letters or whatever. So that's something that you should be doing, just because it helps you be a better poker player. It helps you remember small details about your opponents that you're going to face later on, right? So if you have in your subconscious even a hand that you played against someone, the next time you're in a position against that person, especially because I know most of you, a lot of you play live or wherever, you play against the same small pool of 30 opponents regularly, especially in Macau or wherever, you're more likely subconsciously to make the correct decision because you're like, well, I remember this one time that this and this happened. And those sort of things are hard to necessarily quantify in the moment, but they lead you towards the correct situation, right? It's kind of like, how did you know that this way was home? Or how did you know that this was something? And you're just like, you have an answer, but it's hard to put a reason on why you have it. It's just because of your past experience. So that's something that you should definitely make an exercise and a meditation at the table. As something practical, what you could be writing down, you could be using an app. I use notes on my phone. Like, I don't like, I mean, it's just easier to get to. I don't like having like the app and open it and whatever, and there's like a formula for stuff. Like sometimes I don't want to write stack sizes. Sometimes I want to write like a note or a read on someone. Sometimes I want to write a behavioral pattern. Sometimes I want to write like something that I want to put in my novel I'm working on. I have all sorts of things that relate to poker that I'm working on that might happen at the poker table. So I have a notepad for that. I have like 4 different notepads, and one of them is I have notes. This is tell you my personal thing. I have this. I have notes on all the pros that I play with. I have notes on all the VIPs that I play with. I have notes on the hand histories that I want to talk about, and then I have like sort of philosophical notes about poker. Like, this reminded me of this time that this happened, or this is, you know, something that I learned from poker that I could use to write a blog or teach in my course, whatever. So I have different notepads for different things, and then I'm really detailed in my note taking when I am doing a hand history. Of course, the things you mentioned are really important: stack sizes, position, history, bet sizing, hands, obviously like the specific suits of each card on the table because they affect range combinations and blockers and all those things. So those are really important. But I don't feel like you, okay, so to address your specific problem, like, should I write them down in the middle of the hand? It's like, you could do it. You could use a voice memo and just kind of like talk in your phone, you know, like this, and just be like, blah, 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 and talk for 15 seconds about the hand.
Well, no, I certainly wouldn't talk in the middle of the hand because that would mess me up, I think, mess my whole train of thought up. But, I mean, afterwards, I have no problem recalling the hand I just played. It just seems like kind of awkward. I was just wondering if that's something that you see. I've never seen it in a card room at a casino, people pulling out notebooks and writing down hand histories after the hand was over. I wasn't sure if you do that.
Yeah, I mean, I do it all the time. Like, in my cell phone, like, I have notes on, I probably have like 20 pages of stuff, to be honest, that I've accumulated in Macau. It's like so valuable. I mean, every time I go back, I read all the notes on every person that I ever played, and I think about, okay, this is my game plan when I play against this person, this is my game plan when I play against that person, this is like, you know, how the table dynamic works, this is whatever, right? So, like, I probably could sell these for like a lot of money to people to go. I mean, like, I have really good notes. Like, I look at my notes and I play against people. I'm like, damn, I'm like really. This helped me. This made me $12,000. This hand, whatever, you know. Like, I have really good notes. Like, I mean, like, if you're going to a class and you're like want to remember what the history teacher said, and you're like, should I write down everything she said? And you're like, probably. You know, it's going to help you. I mean, it might be weird, but like, I'm discreet about it. I'm not like, hey, guess what, John? I just figured out that every time you 4-bet me, you have nothing. Like, I mean, you know, but like, how awkward is it to be on your cell phone at the table? Like, everybody's on their cell phone, you know? So the way you do it is neither here nor there. I have my own personal preference, but like, you should be note-taking for sure, especially if you play against the same opponents. That's like so valuable, especially if you play against people that, you know, are mediocre, that have like really exploitative tendencies. Like, for example, they are really loose pre-flop and they call a ton of bets, but they never 3-bet. Like, that's something that you should remember, because every time they 3-bet you, you know they have nothing, and that's affecting how you're going to play against them. You're like, okay, my game plan for going into the session is I'm going to raise all his limps and I'm going to fold every time he 3-bets, and I'm never going to 4-bet light. And like, that information to know about someone is going to save you, I don't know, 20 big blinds against that person during the session. And it's like, you know, that should be part of your practice. Like, that should be part of your pregame routine as well. And so, yeah, you could take a break. I mean, like, it depends how good your hand memory is. You could take a break once every orbit to once every hour to write down like the hands you play that are important. You can make a voice memo, but like get it on there and make the habit is what's important, you know, and how you use the information is what's important. So make it a habit. That's going to help you a ton, for sure.
Great, thanks.
No question. Like, think about. I always go this way with my clients on the first lesson. I always tell them, like, you know, depending on what your goals are, if you're really serious about like getting serious at poker, you should start to think about it like an athlete would, you know. And if you think about like, what does Tom Brady do before he goes and plays football on Sunday? Like, he's probably watching tape of his opponents, you know. And so like the idea of taking notes being something that is like weird or you don't see other people doing isn't mean that it's not the right thing to do. It just means that there's a lot of edge to be had because it shows the severity to which your opponents are taking the game. But I guarantee you, if you play big or if people are being serious, that's types of things that is going to be happening, and it makes a lot of sense because when there's a lot of opportunity and competition, then you have to find ways to get edges. So if you're doing that and nobody else is, don't think that you're the one that's doing things wrong. Everybody else is just crazy, and you're just making money. That's why you're playing in that game. That's probably why you're winning. You know. So.
Yeah, right on. Thanks.
You got it. Thanks, Rick. So what's up? Anybody else have a question here? Any subject's good. I mean, this is cool. We're bouncing all over, but I like it. I think it's really valuable for you guys and the people watching too. So who else is here that's new? Homisku? I totally butchered your name, but what's up? And Tornik, what's up to you too? I saw Reed have a hand go up. Go ahead, Reed. Tell us something about yourself too.
I'm not sure if you can hear my microphone or not.
No, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. Pretty interesting place. Gambler's paradise. Besides Las Vegas, obviously. I'm recently got into poker pretty hardcore last year or so. I played a lot, like from 20 to 24. I'm 29 years old, and pretty good success. Probably, I never had more than like 10 grand to my name until I played poker, and then built up to about 35K, and then played for about 3 years, stagnant around that number. Went to Foxwoods, did well in some tournaments, but I've always been very erratic in my play. I go like 2 months doing great, and then like 1 month or 2 months, just absolutely deplorable play, and I just blame myself. And yeah, you run cold, but you know in your heart that you're just not playing as well. So recently I've gotten back into it, and I'm feeling good about my game, but I'm really intrigued about learning more. You know, that's what life and this game's all about, just learning and learning. So.
Good attitude. So what can I help you with? Do you have a specific question? I'm seeing something that I could see identifying to be a problem, but I'd like to hear from you kind of what you're thinking.
Well, to be honest, I feel like I don't have enough time to devote to the game. I work like 55 hours a week, or about a week, and I usually only play Friday nights. And sometimes I feel like I just want to play more, and I don't know when to actually be able to play more.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting one. I definitely get a lot of those, and I have a client I'm working with now that has the same situation where they work full time and they're playing on weekends, and it's like, how do you make that be the most effective? And I know a lot of people are in that situation. So I'm feeling like, and I'm going out on a limb here, I've heard 30 seconds of your what you said. I'm feeling like the two issues you might have had are connected, where you playing well leads, how you're playing and the time that you have to play are sort of working together, where like you feel like, when you can get in a rhythm or when you can find a lot of time to play, perhaps you do well, and then when your job or your life takes over and you don't have a lot of time, then it's like kind of frustrating, and then maybe you're sort of not getting the table time that you would like to get, and then you're trying to like overcompensate by maybe changing your playing style or being too aggressive or like gambling too much because you don't get to play often enough, and then it kind of leads to this spiral where things sort of decline from there, and then maybe you do take a bad beat or two, but you kind of know that you could have done things differently, and it's somewhat not your fault because you don't have as much time to play as you like, but on the other hand, it's like damage control, right?
Spot on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of clients in your spot, man. It's what I do. So I get it, and I feel like okay. Well, I mean, there's two things you could do. Obviously, one is finding more time to play poker, which like I have to know a lot more about your life situation to do that. But sorry. So one would be finding more time to play poker. But another thing that I just did with a client of mine was like, okay, that's not realistic. It's just for whatever reason it wasn't realistic. He is where it is. It's a great job. He's really successful. He doesn't want to be a pro. It is what it is. Last time. And so it was just like, how do we work with the limited time we have to thrive at the poker table, to not let that take away from us being successful, and not letting it like affect our play because you're trying to overcompensate, being too aggressive or whatever, for the fact that you didn't get to play enough poker. So
that's exactly right. I'm having trouble blocking out the exterior thoughts, of, oh, I can only play until 12 this week, so I want to try to bump this up a little in this certain hand. That actually comes to my mind, which is sad, but it happens,
I totally get it, and I'm glad that I kind of got it right on where you're at, because I feel like I've had quite an experience with this. Sorry if there's a train or a fire truck going by. It's like absurdly loud. I don't sleep much of it. Anyway, so we actually took an approach that I think worked really well, and it was like sort of a two-step approach. One was just to acknowledge that it was going to be a quality over quantity sort of approach to poker, and I think that works really well. And I think that the key is to make the quality of your play stronger. And so that starts before you get to the poker table. So if you get to the poker table and you're agitated or you're stressed or you're in a rush or your mind is elsewhere, you're distracted, you have stuff that you didn't finish throughout the week, that's not something that needs to be addressed at the poker table. It's a symptom of what wasn't addressed before you got there. So you're a busy guy, man. You work 55-hour weeks. Maybe you have a girlfriend. Maybe you don't. Like, whatever. You have personal life. You have interests. You have all these other things going on. So 55 hours are already gone, plus, gym and everything else that goes on in your life. It's like, how do I find a legitimate time to play poker? On top of that, it's like, how do I find, like, I know for me personally, like, I don't even go to play poker if I have something else that needs my attention for that day. So I would rather not play and like miss out on EV or whatever people say, like you get more EV when you're at the table. Like, I'd rather not play poker on a Thursday that I don't have enough time to play, and just play all day Friday and then not play Saturday, and get that one day in where I could just be a crusher, because on that one day I could make enough or I could succeed enough, or I could compete at a level that I'm happy at. I focus on trying to compete with myself, that I feel like I was at my best that day. Because for me, that's what it's about. I want to be at my best, So I feel like getting everything out of your way during the week is going to help you on Saturday. So Monday, it's like, what are my obstacles that I'm going to face that are going to hold me back for Saturday, mentally or physically, like time-wise, or like mentally, like, do I have something hanging over my head? Like, do I have to file my taxes? Or like, I don't know, right? Like, but whatever it is, what's hanging over my head, and what can I not do? What do I have to get off my plate? So that's like number one, and I think that starts at the beginning of the week, Pachadopo, and that's huge. So the second thing is, like, when you're at the table, like, how do you carve out that amount of time, and what is it for you that you need to thrive? I know for me, if I don't have that time at the beginning of my session, I'm already like in that anxiety mode where like I don't have time to get into my rhythm. I'm just getting warmed up at the gym and then I gotta go. Like, I just start sweating and I gotta leave. Like, I don't like that feeling. I don't want to be competing in that environment. I want time to be like, I finally figured out what this guy's doing, and now I'm gonna whack. Like, if I don't have that end game where like I figured this dude out and now I'm gonna beat him, I don't enjoy the session if I just get to the situation and I can't execute on the conclusion that I've come to. Like, that's where the sweet spot is for me. So I know that I need that like 8-hour window where it's like, I got you. I'm like dancing around like a cat and a mouse, but I'm gonna get you. Like I like that. So I think that I'm hearing that in you. I hear this in a lot of my clients. I think that's the most normal situation. and that's what it is. So, excuse me one sec, guys. So, anyway, that's like what I think is what you're going to need to carve out to do that. And so I would go for that quality approach. And even though you feel like, hey, I'm not going to get as many hours in, like you need to stop measuring your win rate in terms of like hourly rate. Because if you extrapolate it over a long period of time, your hourly rate might be X, but those hours that you're losing money are really affecting your hourly rate. So if you could just condense the hours you play to only those power winning hours, you're going to be like the 80-20 principle, which is I'm a big fan of that. It's that 80% of your results come from 20% of your effort. So 80% of your winnings come from 20% of your sessions. You wear 80% of your clothes, like you wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. That's sort of how your life works, right? You go to 20% of the restaurants 80% of the time, right? That's just the way the world works. And so if you apply that principle, that truth to poker, I feel like you can make huge leaps and gains with very, very small amounts of energy and effort, So I hope that helps, man.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much, man.
For sure, and it's funny you said that. I was just dealing with this with a few other people, and it's like, that approach really worked for them, so I'm eager for you to try it out. Send me an email, let me know how it goes. I would be curious to see if you notice a big change in your attitude, your energy, your positivity at the table, and also, of course, your win rate and your results. All right, guys, let's keep going. I'm having fun. Any other questions? I want to get to a few more of you here. Yeah, Tornik? I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong.
Yeah. It's Tornik.
Where are you from, man? What's up?
I'm from Republic of Georgia, if you know that place.
I do. I haven't been there. Closest I've got is like Bratislava or something, but.
That's not close, but it's okay.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say that recently I started to play PLO 8 or better. If you know the game.
Yeah.
And right now I'm in a spot where I mix these games, Holdem, No Limit Holdem for tournaments, and the PLO and the PLO 8 for cash games. I mix these games in my poker room. There's There's not too much tables, so I mix these games and I play together. And I want to know what your thoughts about mixing these games. If I spelled it correct.
You play PLO 8 cash and No Limit Hold'em tournaments.
Of tournaments, yeah. And how
PLO
good is that?
Cash.
What?
PLO 8 is cash games, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I want to know how good is for development for you mixing these games.
Yeah, so I mean, you're existing in the world of poker, right? So in some ways, you're playing the same sort of game, like you're playing poker on the broad scale. But one thing to keep in mind is, like, first of all, there's a huge difference between the style that you need to win in tournaments and the style you need to win cash games. So just even if you were playing the same game, playing tournaments and cash games are two completely different things. It's like, it would be like doing like Broadway and Hollywood for a musician, right? It's like, yes, you're a singer if you sing on Broadway and you sing in Hollywood, but you're just, it's very, very different, okay? So that alone is a big obstacle that I feel like is very hard to traverse for a lot of players. There are a few players that are good or competent or excellent at both. They're few and far between because the strategy you need is so different. And to get to the point where you start to master the nuances and the minutiae, it is very, very difficult to excel at that point and become, very proficient when you're dividing your energy in two different places. Now, you're dividing your energy sort of in three different places because you're dividing them between tournament and cash games, but then you're dividing them between No Limit Hold'em and PLO 8, which are like, you know, almost like in 4 places because they're different games, and then one of them's a high-low game. So it's like you're dividing them perhaps between the 2 most difficult places to divide them in poker. And my challenge for you would be do you want to be good or great at both, or do you want to be excellent or, you know, a master at one of them? Like I
want to make profits.
Sorry?
I want to make profits, I said.
Great. So where, you know, and this is a personal question. Like, identify where you're making the most money, figure out what your goals are, and which avenue is going to get you most towards your goals. Maybe it is dividing your energy between, you know, 50-50. I find that hard to believe from just like a hunch standpoint that dividing your energy 50-50 between those 2 games is going to lead you to make the most amount of dollars if that's your ultimate goal, which is great. If you want to make money playing poker and your goal is to do that, I find it hard to believe that it's exactly 50-50 the amount of time you should be spending between both of those games. I'm sure that your hourly rate or your win rate is higher in one, or the opportunity to move up in stakes and play higher games is bigger in one, or the variance is less than one, or whatever it is that matters to you. But I would challenge you to find what's important to you and to sort of extrapolate that and figure out which game gives you the most amount of that. So just to give you an example in my career, like I'm very good at tournaments. I'm like, but you know, where I think I could use a big word like I'm great is something like high stakes live, no limit hold'em cash games. But that's not like I'm great at poker. Like I'm you know, this is where I'm good at. I'm this one type of guy, and I'm great at that. But that's, you know, I don't do 50 different things, even though I think I could do all those things well or competently. But you know, you're not going to be an NBA athlete and then be, you know, a baseball professional and then be a soccer professional. Like you're just, you know, you got to like pick and choose where you want to excel. And so I think that's sort of my challenge to you, and I think those analogies hopefully help you kind of see the pros and cons of dividing your energy there. It gives you a little more excitement, more creativity. I understand how playing different games and formats inspire you to challenge yourself and learn new things at the other one. I do dabble in tournaments occasionally because I like them. It challenges me to be better at cash games. Sometimes, you know what, I do like 80% cash games, 20% tournaments. Maybe at some point I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to do 80% tournaments and 20% cash games. But I always feel like for me to excel and compete at the level that is valuable to me with the players that I want to compete with, I have to have my focus be in one place. So I hope that helps. Cool. All right. I'm seeing some questions in chat here, but they're not for me. You guys are talking.
Hey, Rashad.
Alejandro, what's up, man? You have a question?
I just wanted to share an experience of something that happened to me. I was up at West Palm Beach, and I went to play the $500 tournament that it usually guarantees $1 million, but this one didn't guarantee. So I gave it one bullet, and I really went tilted in one specific hand where I didn't give it enough thought because it would cost me 90% of my chips. So I'm gonna give you a little resume of what happened in the hand.
Wait, is it a strategic question that you have, like a hand history question?
Yeah. Is it for another webinar?
Oh no, I was gonna say if you have a question about the specific hand of poker you played, it's fine to tell me the hand. If it's about something else, leave the hand out of it. But yeah, go ahead, tell me the hand. We'll talk about a hand of poker. Why not?
So there's only one pro at the table. He's made a couple of final tables at the WPT, and you know, he's not a very known name, but I've seen him. So he raises after under the gun +1. I'm in middle position, and I have Jack-9 diamonds. So I call. Everybody else folds, and the big blind calls because he's priced in. The flop comes ace, ace, 3 with 2 diamonds. So the raise was the blinds were 150, 300. He made it 900 before the flop. So when the flop comes, it's 2 aces and 1 3 with 2 diamonds. There's 2,700 in the pot, and he only bet 700. So right there, I assume he wants to represent the strong ace and trying to build the pot, or
hey, Ali, hang on, man. I'm losing you. I feel like other people might be losing you too. If you have a hand, maybe this is my first time doing like a hand in this webinar. I want to get to your question. Maybe it would be better to send it to my YouTube channel so I could address it better. Otherwise, maybe type the whole hand in the chat with all the details so that everybody could follow along. And if we have time at the end, I'll get to it, because I feel like it's kind of hard for people to like memorize everything that's going on, and like there's so many questions to have about the chip stacks. It's really hard to give you like a blanket statement about a hand. So in order for my advice to really even be effective, I feel like I'm going to have all the details, and it's just hard to get in a quick conversation.
I'll type
so maybe
it later.
Type them all out all here on the right side. If I have time, I'll get to it. Otherwise, shoot me a thing on my blog. I have my whole Hand of the Day channel where I'll answer all your questions there too if I don't get to it today. All right?
All right, man.
Thanks, man. All right. Cool. So, Sylvia, you said your mic didn't work earlier. If you have a question, just shoot it out here in chat. And yeah, so I think I got to all you guys out here. Chai Fi, what's up, man? You're sitting over there. I'm picking on you. You got a question over there for me? Otherwise, I could jump to some of the YouTube stuff too. I got some questions that people left for me on chat. Sylvia, listen, my man. All right. Someone else is driving. Where is my man driving? Have you parked yet? Where was he? Some guy was driving back in Canada. Hopefully he didn't crash. All right, so I'm going to YouTube here. Got a bunch of questions from readers here as well that I'd like to address quickly before we go. Say hey to everybody there. Yeah, this was cool. Thank you guys for throwing out your stuff. So, all right. Let's see. I've bookmarked a few of these that I wanted to answer. So, what is that noise? So like someone typing? Technically, like hopeless. All right. Thanks for bearing with me. Yeah, sure, Reed. If you have a question, just throw it out there. Also, Alejandro, if you have a question. All right, he actually had another question. Yeah, I was just going to answer one. Go ahead, man. What's up? Come back to me.
I think somebody else had one before me.
No, Hiachu, what's up, man?
Oh, I can go first? Sure.
Jump in.
Yeah, so I play in an environment that has a very particular mix of players. I want to get your insight on how to play against this mix. So usually nine-handed table, and then 2 or 3 targets on the table.
Yeah.
And then myself, and then a group of guys who are friends. Is a tight group. They play kind of like friendly against each other, and they just play small pots against each other, and then they play big pots against the targets. So I feel like I'm playing one against maybe like 5 people, and then one-on-one against the targets. So do you have any insight as to how to handle these kind of situations?
Well, that's kind of weird. So obviously you want to make sure no collusion is going on in your game, but I don't think that that's necessarily...
I hope not. I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily implicit of collusion. I know a lot of times that like people that know each other that play in the same game will check down habitually or soft play. I don't think that necessarily means they're colluding or they're out to, purposely extract money from other people by using their skills together. I think there's a difference between those two things. But that being said, like from a general standpoint, like leaving these people aside, I think this is almost a more practical approach to your game at the poker table. Is like you want to be trying to play the most amount of hands versus the weaker players in the game, right? So, like, if there are pros in the game or if these people are good, you should try and think about the hand conceptually so that you can guarantee to get yourself in the pot with the weaker players. And I talk about this a lot in my videos. Like, the reason I make a lot of pre-flop decisions are because I want to keep certain players in the pot that I'm going to ultimately win money off. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, could someone mute their mic? It's really loud, someone's mic. So let's say, for example, you are. Thanks, Dustin. Let's say, for example, you are considering whether or not to 3-bet, right? You have like a borderline 3-betting hand. So mid position opens, you have ace queen, late position, and you're debating on whether to 3-bet, and you're like, what should I do? I'm like, well, tell me something about who opened, and tell me something about who's in the big blind, because that'll tell me why the person opened and what the best decision is. So you could say that, well, from a game theory standpoint, 3-betting is correct, but like, who cares? Like, you should make the decision that's going to win you the most amount of money in that particular situation. So given that your hand is borderline, if you have aces, you probably 3-bet fine. If you have 7-deuce, you fold, fine. But a lot of hands are somewhere in between. So if you have a hand like ace-queen, I'm just using this as an example, it doesn't mean that ace-queen applies exactly to the situation, but it's a hand that people can understand is like, well, I could call, I could 3-bet, it could go either way. Like, if the player that opened is excellent and the big blind is like a huge fish, then it would tell me that the excellent player probably opened the light to get action against the big blind, right? Or even if I just sat down at the table and I didn't know anything, and I see an excellent player open, who I know is excellent, I look at the big blind or the small blind, and I'm like, okay, why did he open here? And I automatically assume something about those players. If it goes to showdown and I see that that player opened with a bad hand, what it tells me is that that player thinks that the big blind is not great because he wants to play hands with them. So if I know that information and I have a hand like ace-queen, I'm going to flat because I want to play a hand with the big blind too, because I earn more money dominating the big blind's range than I do 3-betting the excellent player who's going to play very well against me afterwards. So, Hiatsu, go ahead, back with me, man. What's up?
Yeah, the follow-up on that, since the opener is a good player, he actually can go to level 2, knowing that if I 3-bet him, I have a 3-bet light hand. If I smooth call, I'm inviting the fish in, and I should have a solid hand. So even when I have the position on the good player and the big blind, the target,
Yeah.
actually my calling range is generally stronger than the 3-betting range, which is pretty obvious in this situation because he knows that I know because we play like quite a bit together. That most of the time we want to play with the target, and
Right.
And if I 3-bet, actually, it's kind of my hand becomes more faced up than otherwise.
Yeah, so I mean, you're saying you would only 3-bet a strong range there, I guess. Which
No. Actually, usually I would 3-bet with a weaker range.
Yeah, but you're also going to 3-bet with like
he just want to ISO and his hand is not that great. And then if I 3-bet, I kick out the target, and he is out of position against me. And most of the time, he would just wait for the other spot because it's live game. It's not online game where you have to fight for the small edges.
Yeah, but I think that you're going to be 3-betting hands like 8, and you're not going to flat. It just doesn't really make sense. So your 3-betting range includes strong hands. But I would challenge that your calling range includes only strong hands. I think you're going to be calling with weaker hands because you can justify calling with less equity to compensate for that by winning more equity against the fish. So, like you could call with like 7-8 suited profitably in a spot where you wouldn't otherwise be able to because you're going to win enough money off the fish. And like it doesn't really matter that much if he knows that, it doesn't even matter that much if he knows that your range is strong. Like, that sort of just gives you more opportunity to win the hand, right? Like, who cares? Like, what's he going to do? He's out of position. There's a fish in the pot that calls too often post-flop. The guy's kind of handicapped. Like, who cares if he knows your range is strong? Let him check fold you on the flop and win the pot. Like, it doesn't seem like a problem to me. It seems like an advantage that you have strategically over him. So you can use that to your advantage. And, like, furthermore, it's pretty easy for you to play your hand post-flop because if the raiser checks, then most of the time his range is really weak. And
yes,
you could bet
he
the
has
flop
to play pretty honest against the target, yes.
Yeah, so it's even easier to play your range post-flop because whenever there's a fish in the pot, people play more straightforward, so it's easier to deduce ranges of good players when there's fish in the hand. So I don't think that this is a problem. I think this is actually a spot that you're making a lot of money. And if your opponent knows that, then just keep sitting to his left. And it seems like you have a great spot to keep challenging that, you know. So, Reed, what's up, man? Go ahead back.
Thanks.
Just in regards to starting at the table itself, do you have any suggestions on your stack size? Do you automatically always match the largest stack just for the potential of capitalizing on a good hand?
So,
and this is just cash game, usually 2-5 I play.
Right. So there's a few factors to consider. I can't say that one answer is the best. I usually don't give concrete answers to questions because in poker it's a game of imperfect information and there is no such thing as a sure answer. So what I try and give my clients, and you guys might, you know, when I give advice, is give people tools to make decisions they could effectively use to implement into their own game, right? So how do you go about making the decision for what amount of money to buy in is a much more practical answer than me just telling you you should buy in the maximum, because that doesn't really help you understand the situation or why you're doing what you're doing. So, okay, the factors to consider are, number one, you know, where are you in skill level relative to the table? You don't have to answer, just think about this. Like, how good are you compared to the other people? How much are the other people putting you to decisions that are really tough for a lot of chips? And if they're going to put you to a decision that's really tough for a lot of chips, then buying in deeper becomes more questionable. The other factor to consider is, like, you know, what's your bankroll, how much experience can you afford to have? In an ironic way, buying in deeper makes your variance almost less because there's spots where you don't gamble as much. So, you know, if you have like 300 big blinds, you're going all in very rarely, so you're almost gambling less in a weird way, depending on that playing style and how the games play. The other consideration is, you know, where are you at the table in terms of the other stacks? So if I buy in and, for example, you know, the other thing is where are you in the table and which players have which stacks. So if I buy in and the fish is to my left and he has 300 big blinds and all the pros have 100 big blinds, okay, fine, I'll buy in 300 even though he's to my left. If the best player at the table is to my left, hopefully the second best player, maybe the best player, whatever, the third best, I don't know, is to my left, and he has 300 big blinds and all the other players, including the fish, have 100, then, you know, buying in 300 would be a fun challenge for me, but it might not be something I would do to make the most amount of money because I'm only effectively playing deeper against someone to my left that is otherwise excellent. How can I make money in that situation, right? He has more power over me than I have over him, so why would I put myself in a spot to let him, you know, take away my equity versus the other players in the game by buying in deeper? So those are the things to sort of consider. So obviously the biggest thing is, you know, your skill level relative to people and which players have which stacks and the chip stack and the positions at the table as well. I think if you can strive for something, if I had to make like a blanket statement, like what's the best thing to do, I think buying in, you can get good and successful at playing deep stack live poker. I think that's where you're going to make the most. Because people are going to make big mistakes for lots of chips, and you know, you gain a lot of EV by doing that. So, hey man, no smoking. Shit is bad. What do you do? What's up, man? Welcome to the webinar. Hey Shane and Darian, what's up, you guys? So, welcome, Darian. Tell us something about yourself besides where you're from, what do you do, and what's up? What can I help with? Do you have any questions? Or?
I'm originally from Toronto area. Kind of bounced around Canada. Now I'm living in Montreal area, and I was going to dedicate most of my time to live poker at the casino out here. But I haven't really played super seriously over the last like year or two. So my main question was, what have been the main changes to the metagame over the last like year or so? like I notice when I play online now, it used to be 3 bets was aces, and now it's like 6, 7 bets. Everybody's just a maniac all the time.
Well, okay, that's a good question. I think it's sort of hard to. You guys are going to hate me. I never give you a serious answer. It's sort of. Well, I give you a lot of serious answers. I never give you a specific answer. It's sort of hard to say how that metagame is changed in your microeconomy. So, like, my references are going to be, the games in Macau or like the Alpha 8 tournaments or whatever. And so I just feel like me giving you like a blanket statement answer might not be the best, like, person to best judge your specific situation. That's like a question that I could evaluate very effectively, I think, if I were to play in your games or around your levels, like whatever, your player pool. I could judge that very effectively, but it would be hard to do from here. So one thing I say would be advice for you is, like, the people that you meet in your circle that you talk strategy with are going to base their strategy based on the empirical data that they have, meaning like the experience that they've had playing live poker. So if you're talking to other people that you respect around you in your environment, and those people are like, oh, it's really bad to like bluff here, to check raise here, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad from a theoretical standpoint. It just means that probably in the games that they play, that specific move would be a losing play because of the fact that nobody else, counter adjusts in a way that makes that play profitable. So those are the types of people that you're going to want to talk to, and those are like, that's kind of where getting in tune with the game that you play is just so valuable, and that's sort of what takes the time, and that's sort of what like that barrier to entry is. And that's something that you're just going to have to do with a little bit of time and practice. And it's sort of like getting used to the minutiae of your own game. One thing that I noticed, like, I guess this is like a super big blanket statement, like, is I think that people, like, this could be like totally the opposite read of what you have, but I think that people check raise less. And I think that in the past it was sort of like, hey, let's check raise and try and like play for stacks here and like force people to, I'm going to like check raise with medium strength hands to, force people out of pots or to get value from my hands. And now I just feel like so many people are calling much more, floating much more, keeping pots smaller, and making decisions on later subsequent streets with more information and trying to rep more hands by calling rather than forcing their opponents to condense their range by check raising. So if I had to make one sort of like blanket statement, empirical data that I've noticed, I would say it's that. But again, like, I'm not sure how valuable that it's going to be in your own, like, whatever game you're playing. So
yeah, I'm playing 1-2 mostly.
Yeah, and like, yeah, I mean that's like really, it's going to be a little hit or miss. So talk to some of the people in the game, play some in the game, and you're going to have your answer pretty quickly. I think you're going to get there's nothing like experience in that situation. You're going to get a really good feel for what to do in 2 hours of playing, better than me and you spending 20 hours talking. You're going to come back to me 2 hours and be like, hey, this is what's happening. And then I'm like, oh, well, then let's go this direction with the strategy you should be implementing from that point on.
Thanks.
So, cool. Great question by Dustin here. I saw that in chat. I'll try and get to you. But first I want to make sure I get to Shane, who just joined. What's up, man? If you have a question, definitely throw it out there. Where are you from? What's up?
You can hear okay?
Yeah.
Yep. I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and I live 15 minutes from Crown Casino, which is pretty handy. So pretty much, I don't probably have a specific question for you at the moment, but very interested to tune in this morning. Well, this morning here. The thing that's my interest is in live cash, and I'm playing 1-3 and looking to play 2-4 regularly by the end of this year. So
what one thing is holding you back from playing 2-4 by the end of the year?
each year, my wife and I take off to somewhere in the world, and usually we end up spending my poker bankroll. That's pretty much it. So currently, I'm sitting with poker bankroll is about 2,500, which is totally fine for 1-3. And like you were saying before, I have an alternative source of income. So if I bust the 2.5 grand, taking an occasional shot at 2-4, it's no big drama. But right. The money is sort of kind of less important than the actions of playing poker there. I'm just deeply entertained by the way that poker works, and so I kind of hate losing. I'm looking to try and maintain forward momentum rather than significant backward momentum. So I have taken the occasional shot at 2-4, and it's like everybody else's experiences. You check raise jam top pair and a nut flush draw and get called by 2-4, which makes 2 pair on the river, and it's like, oh, that was a $1,500 bad experience. So I'll shuttle off back to 1-3 for a while and just play there. So
for sure.
Live cash. Very interested in the game, and been amazed at watching your variously big laydowns, incredible laydowns, and big calls. So
thanks for joining. I'm in love Melbourne. I actually, when I was 18, I moved. 18 and a half. Yeah, 18. I moved to Melbourne. I was there. I lived at the Docklands, which I'm sure you know.
Wow, no one lives at the Docklands.
It was before it was built up, but it was cool. There were some little shops and restaurants down there, and I loved Melbourne. Awesome place. I lived there for like 6-7 months, and then I moved back again. I love Melbourne. That's one of my favorite cities in the world. So if you guys haven't, you should go there. Definitely go there for the Aussie Millions.
Are you coming this year?
Maybe. I'm always. I don't plan too far ahead, so I'm not sure. But I will get down there for sure. My wife and I have never been together. She's never been to Australia, so I'm definitely gonna go with her at some point.
I think you said earlier on that you quite like tennis.
Yeah. Love tennis.
Yeah, of course. Australian Open is on at the same time.
Yeah, of course. It's cool. Actually, the first time I was playing tennis. It was the first time I was ever playing tennis. It's a funny story. I was at the Crown Casino, and I was playing with Sorel Mizzi, and this was like 7, 8 years ago, and we were like betting flagrantly, like screaming on the court, like yelling at each other and whatever, and like we're just having a good time betting, like I don't know, whatever for the game, and every point is a new game, and we had like one of the guys there that was like the line judge, and we were like all pretending to be serious and yelling. And so we're terrible. And like we hit the ball out on the other court. There's 2 courts at the Crown Casino. We hit the ball out on the other court, and I like go run to pick it up, and I'm like swearing at Sorel or whatever back and forth. And I go down, and this guy throws it back to me, and I look up, and it's Roger Federer. And he just and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Sorel and I were like so embarrassed, because he's like hitting the ball like a champion, and we're just like laughingly throwing the ball into the net, and we just sit down on the bench and watch for like an hour. It was like the most amazing experience ever. Anyway, you should go to Crown for good tennis events.
Good story. Yeah, we'll come back and we'll show you around a little bit.
Thank you. I like that.
Melbourne Underground.
If you see I'm coming out there, shoot me a personal message, and I'm happy to have a drink. So I think Dustin, I got to answer your question. I think that was really cool.
Keep moving, yeah.
He asked in the chat here, how do you overcome low confidence? Do you read uplifting books, do some kind of activities, or talk with friends? I'm assuming you're referring to like poker times when it's easy to get like your sort of poker confidence shattered when especially if you take a shot, or if the amount of money you're playing with is sort of like bigger than the amount you normally play with. It almost feels like it impacts you more than it would if you were playing a normal game. Even if you only lost 1 buy-in, it feels like you lost like 100 or something, because you're like, oh my god, I'm playing bigger, or I'm deep in a tournament. This was so important. And it's like at the end of the day, you've got to realize that the only thing that happened is that what happened was completely normal and realistic in terms of what's expected to happen in the span of any professional poker career, or any even the best players are experiencing the types of things that you're probably going through. Now, if you do make a drastic mistake and like bust a huge bankroll, fine, I get it. That's like a different situation. But I feel like that's like sort of the exception to the rule. I feel like a lot of times that people have confidence issues in poker, it's sort of like those things happen just on the daily grind, where like they're doing really well, like Reed was saying, you're doing really well for 2 months, and then you have a bad month, and then you feel bad. Maybe you only played like 3 sessions, maybe you got bad beated once, and then you dusted off 3 or 4 bad stacks, and at the end, then you feel like you go back to poker a month later, and maybe a lot of time has gone by because you haven't played a lot, or maybe you lost a decent amount of money because you were playing a bigger game, and you feel like, oh my god, I can't play anymore. But if you were, the challenge is look at yourself as if you were someone else evaluating that person, and you would just kind of laugh and be like, well, I mean, it's only been 3 buy-ins. This is totally normal. And I think that sort of perspective helps a little bit. I think also playing live, you have the tendency to value every single decision so much more because like you're in person making it, and there's this stigma with the other people that are judging you if you lose money, or how are you going to look to these people if you stack off with a questionable call or a bad shove or whatever. And so these things sort of like play it to your head, but these are all sort of stories that you're telling yourself, and the things that are like your own internal dialogue that's kind of creating this this problem. So what do I do personally? I mean, I think a few things have helped. I think that having not all your eggs in your poker basket really helps. So I think having like other interests or other things that you're connected to that you could go back to that give you a sense of purpose or a sense of self, or that like you don't only define yourself by your ability to play poker is really important, because that ability can be stripped away from you. Maybe your ability is not stripped away from you, but the sense that your ability is stripped away from you happens often whenever you lose, even if losing is due to bad luck or whatever. It's just like that feeling that you have is the same as like the feeling of inadequacy. And I feel like that's really hard to deal with if you don't have something else that you're kind of like progressing at outside of poker that you could fall back on. So I have, I have an online marketing company that I run with my wife and with 12 employees and whatever, and we have like a company that we work on, and that's like cool to go back to when I come in and out of the poker world, and I'm like, if I don't play poker for a little while, and even if I won or if I lost, like it's nice to have something that's like continual and that I progress on and that's sort of stimulating, and that I don't want to say that it sort of gives you your confidence back, or it keeps you going even when something goes wrong. I think that the other thing is that I mean, I could tell you like a few quick fix things that I do. Like I think working out is super important. It's pretty hard to be not confident when you feel like you are in great shape, or you go to the gym often, when your brain is releasing endorphins and serotonin, and you look in the mirror, you're like, shit, I look good. Like it's pretty hard not to have positive feelings about that situation, and so I just feel like that's like a winning formula. When you feel good all day from working out, you eat healthy, and you like perform well, like physically. I just feel like that's a winning formula. When you get up early, you're productive. I think the other thing is being productive in your day. Like I make lists of things that I want to accomplish every single day. I have goals that I want to accomplish, and those things all give me like positive feedback. I mean, they've done studies. It releases dopamine when you like cross things off your little list of things to do. That's like a little dopamine shot, and you feel productive and excited about doing that. And then all these things sort of make you feel better about yourself and your life situation. And then let's face it, who you are at the poker table is a reflection of the type of person you are. If you're like a crazy show-off jock, you're going to be like that type of poker player, right? If you're like a quiet, reserved person, you're probably going to be like tight, stack your chips neatly. Like that's fine, but like who you are at the table is a reflection of who you are in your real life. So if you want to keep your confidence up at the table, it's important to have things away from the felt that do that. And so I just feel like the tendency is you guys probably can relate to this. The tendency is when things are going wrong is ironically when we let go of the things we do that we need to succeed when everything is going right. So if you normally get up early and work out and eat healthy and play poker at noon and quit every day after you're playing 8 hours, like when you're losing, it's probably more common that you're actually like not sleeping and not eating healthy and not going to the gym, and then you're playing till 4 a.m. and you're not like, you're doing all the things you shouldn't be doing. But I think that that's easier to do because the tendency is to sort of like binge eat to feel better, or sleep longer, or not go to the gym because you don't feel like it, and like that's when it's the most important to kind of like buckle down and be like, I am going to go through the motions and force myself to be, the same person, go through the motions until I feel it again. And if I look at my own personal career, like if I'm playing the games, I can remember numerous sessions when I'm playing in Macau, right? And there are times when I get done at like 4 in the morning and I just have a terrible day. Things didn't go well, or maybe I won and I just feel like I could have won more. I didn't play my best, and like a lot of my own satisfaction at the table is measured by how well I think I play and what relative to what I think I can accomplish. So, whether I win or lose is not really that as important almost for my own sort of confidence and mental state of mind. But even if I go to bed at 4 in the morning, I only get up at 9 and go to the gym the next day and just go through the motions of what I do when I'm at my best, because that's when it's even more important to have the same habits and routines as a successful person to keep going and keep your life moving forward, because you do not want to let everything spiral down. It's that first sort of crack that you let things sort of go, and that's when things unravel. So I hope that's some guidelines for you, Dustin. I feel like a lot of people are in that spot, and it's so easy in that spot frequently.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you, man.
Yeah, you got it. All right, guys. I've been here with you an hour and a half. I'm going to wrap this up. But thank you so much for all your time. If you guys have more questions you'd like answered, hopefully I'll do another one of these soon. Otherwise, head over to my blog, alextorelli.com, and you can enter all your hands there for the hand of the day. I'll get to more strategic questions there. Alejandro, I know you had a question about that, and you as well. So any hand questions you have, I just feel like it's more better. It's better covered in a video that I can do on YouTube, and that's kind of fun for me to do as well. And I can kind of sit down and give you all the information you need about that, and keep these for this type of comments. So if you guys have other comments you'd like to be addressed, subjects that you'd like going forward, shoot me a message on alextorelli.com and just fill out the general inquiries and just tell me hey, next webinar, why don't we do a subject about this? And here's 3 or 4 topics I'd like to cover. Here's 4 or 5 questions, and give me kind of an idea. Maybe I could even prepare something in the beginning, and then we take questions on a specific subject. So I think that'll be helpful as well going forward. I can kind of hear back from you guys, what you would like to hear the most, so I can make these the most effective for everybody watching. So to everybody who I didn't get to, I apologize. All you guys on YouTube, I know a few of you were dying to get in the webinar and couldn't. I'm sorry, we have some still technical difficulties. We're working to improve these. But I'm enjoying these a lot. I will do more in the future. So if you have someone that you think would enjoy this, it's going to be on my YouTube channel after this, and you guys could watch it anytime. It'll be there forever, along with the other webinars and all the other videos I have. So if you could please share this with someone you know, just even if you shared it with one person, hey, I think you'd like this, that would be really great. I'd appreciate that a lot. And so get more people to the show, and that would be really fun for me as well. So thank you, everyone, for your time, and I will see you guys hopefully next week. Subscribe to my blog, alextorelli.com. If you're not, I will send you guys an email when I do another one of these so that you guys can jump in these webinars as well. Okay, I'm going to answer comments on YouTube. My man's telling me to answer some comments on YouTube. Sorry? 5 minutes. I'm going to answer a few comments on YouTube. All right, let's do it.
Okay, thanks, Alex.
Yeah, no worries. So let's... All right. Roberto Caprio has a cool question. This is from the YouTube stream, so right under this, you'll see this question here. He says, hey, Alec, do you always take time to think your decisions through rationally, or sometimes just act on impulse at the table? If yes, as I suspect, does it come to you naturally, or do you do any specific work to get there? So this is a great question, Roberto. Basically, what do you do when math and intuition sort of collide? And do you think through all your decisions, and what did you do to help you get to that point? So if you look through, Roberto, or anyone watching, some of the hand of the day section of my YouTube channel, you'll see, I think the video is called Second Best Fold of All Time or Best Fold of All Time. There's 2 of them. Those are sort of really quick impulse decisions that I made, even though they're in huge situations where I have a huge hand in this one spot. It's a time where you can make a really intuitive decision based on the read you get on your opponent, and it's something that just comes to you. All these sort of difficult to quantify factors come together, and you just sense something about the person next to you. It's kind of like the feeling you get when you first meet someone. Maybe you meet a woman for the first time and you're like, dude, I'm like in love. I totally like this girl. And maybe you're like, I can't stand this person. I don't trust them at all. And it's like if I asked you, hey, why do you feel that way? And you're like, well, she has long hair. Like, okay, so does every other woman. You know, it's hard to figure out one specific thing you could say that makes you quantify the way that you're feeling about something. But it's just something that you get. It's an internal emotion you get. And it's usually really, really strong, and it's usually really, really correct. So every time I get that emotion, I'm really happy. I smile. I love when that comes to me, and I always listen to it. So sometimes it's in crazy situations. I remember one time I was playing a game with Cal, and it goes raise, re-raise, pre-flop. I look down with like deuce 5 offsuit, and it was like, I should re-raise here. They're both going to fold. You know, like I would normally never. I just looked down at my cards. I looked at the situation. I got this feeling, and I was like, I should just re-raise here, and I did it. You know, I just listened. I listened to that feeling because it comes up so infrequently that when it's really, really strong, I feel like it's always correct. And so I always go with that feeling. So how do you sort of engineer that feeling to happen? Well, you need to be really, really open and present at the table for that feeling to sort of come about. You need to be aware of all the energy around you and sort of allowing yourself to take that in. Right? You can't be like on your cell phone checking your Facebook at the table and then expect to have some like miracle intuition on the flop when you're like, oh yeah, okay, how much is it? Okay, I call. What's the flop? Oh, boom, I got a genius form of enlightenment. Like probably not, right? So I do a lot of like pre-game sort of like focus meditation. I do yoga, like just trying to get myself into the zone so that I allow that sort of energy to happen. If you watch the event, Turning Stone, Poker Night in America in Florida, this last one, which I think is on pokernight.tv. Yeah, I'll type the link in here afterwards. But if you watch that and watch like my table presence, I'm really trying to focus on being in the moment and just observant of all the little tiny things that happen. So even if the way someone looks at their chips when they're about to re-raise pre-flop, or what they do when they look at their cards, all those little things that lead you to sort of that gut intuition, and I think that's really, really important, and it's so often overlooked, and that's really the difference between when you're playing B-level poker and when you're really playing your A-level poker. You're in that zone when you feel like you can just see everybody else's cards. It's a great feeling. So trying to engineer that as much as possible is something I strive for in my game, and it's really what I feel like has been the deeper level growth I've made over the past couple of years that have really allowed me to, you know, excel at some of the bigger games. So, like, people ask me often, you know, what you do when this intuition conflicts with some sort of mathematical situation. Like, are you supposed to just not listen to any of the math? And if you look at some of those two videos, the best fold of all time, second best fold of all time on my YouTube, a lot of the math in those situations says, well, look, this is the guy's hand range, and from a game theory standpoint, it's really bad to fold because you're too exploitable if you fold here. You're folding the top of your range. You know, mathematically, your hand is ahead of his range. You should be calling. Blah 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 blah. All these sorts of things that, like, when you allow thought to cloud judgment, then you talk yourself into a rational decision when sometimes you need to be listening to that intuition that you have. So I actually disagree with the assumption that math and intuition sort of are these two, you know, counter forces that can never mix, like oil and vinegar, that they always separate, right? And they're just like never going to mix together. You either have to be this guy, you have to be the oil or the vinegar, right? Like you can't be this nice blend of a frappuccino that something goes together, right? Sorry, that was stupid. So I actually disagree with that, and here's why. If you think through the rational side of how you approach making a decision, what you do or what you should be doing, and Roberto asked me this on the YouTube, it's like, what do you think about? Well, I think about, you know, like, what types of hands does my opponent have? How strong is his hand range? And what's my equity versus hand range? What's the best decision to make? But if you think about that analytical process that you're going through every single time you're making a decision, or what you should be doing when you are making a decision, what you're actually doing is sort of quantifying something that is incomplete. You're quantifying incomplete information. You're trying to figure out what this guy has based on all these different factors, right? So you're like, well, this is what he bet on the flop, this is what he did pre-flop, this is what I know about him historically, and that all these things, these myriad of variables, lead me to conclude that this guy has this hand or this hand range, right? So I actually think that when you have this super strong intuition, what you should be doing is using your intuition to adjust what analytical approach you make to your opponent. So if you have a super strong read that your opponent is strong and he's value betting, well, now you can adjust your opponent's hand range and eliminate all the bluffs that he could theoretically have in his range because you read him to be strong. So the intuition that you experience actually leads you to determine, hey, my opponent actually is not bluffing here. He has a really strong hand range. Now I'm going to react accordingly. So if you look at the best fold video I made, if I just were to do either one of those hands in a vacuum, when I had a set of nines, for example, I could say, well, it's likely that he could be bluffing with ace-queen some of the time or raising with ace-jack to find out where he's at. But, yes, those are theoretical things that if I was playing against a robot, I would consider. But, the fact that I looked to my left and saw Chad Holloway raise me on that flop, I was like, he's strong. He's flopped it. So I eliminate those types of ace-jack, mediocre, one-pair, semi-bluff hands from his range because I had a super strong intuition that he flopped it. And then when I take my hand and I compute it against his new hand range that includes the read that I have against him, I realize that my hand is smashed and I don't have enough equity to call. I have to fold. So that's sort of like the process I use to make decisions. And a lot of this, you're like, well, you just talked for 7 minutes and you made a decision in 7 seconds. Yes, that's because you do it every day for 10 years and you sort of get good at making those decisions. That comes with time. So the speed to which you do something is the last thing that you notice that improves. So if it takes a little while to do it in the beginning, that's fine. But the speed will come with time. Eventually, you will just get to that aha moment quicker because you've done it a million times and you put all these variables together faster. So I think that was a cool question. I get that one a lot, and Roberto, thanks for that. You kind of allowed me to talk about something that I think a lot of people sort of struggle with. And I feel like the inclination if I had to say one thing, I said a lot of things, but if I had to say what people do generally wrong, is they talk themselves into decisions that they otherwise know deep down somewhere in their conscious that they shouldn't make. So the rational mind clouds their sort of soul, it clouds their sort of being, and it takes over, and then they get talked into thought, and then they talk themselves into making a decision through rationality when they need to be listening more often. And I feel like, that's why before my sessions I told you I really do a lot of mental relaxation, meditation, sort of getting in the zone, Buddha moments to try and really get myself to that point where I'm just seeing everything for what it is. And so I feel like that's helped my game a ton. That's my personal truth, and it's helped a ton. So. All right, I'll do one more. Let's see. Who has a question on YouTube? YouTube. No, I don't know. Yeah, these are long, so hang on. Gonna pick a good one. Thanks for your patience. All right. All right, so I'll answer this one. My last comment on YouTube. So it's from the last comment here. I'm going to butcher this guy's name. Motijuice. Oh my gosh. Gikmius? That's brutal. I'm sorry. I'm so bad. And I apologize to you if you're watching. Anyway, it's the last comment on YouTube. Hey, Alec, thanks once again for your time and chance to hear. Can you please explain what's your main focus when playing many tables online? What are the key elements you look for, and how can you construct a plan for a hand and keep it or change it along the way in such short periods of time? Because I've read about many different concepts like stack, position, player types, streets, scare cards, etc. I believe it's impossible to dig really deep on each table in each hand, even though, of course, you're folding some of the time because you're playing so many tables. So what's your way to do things as simply as possible to allow you to make the best decisions in the shortest amount of time? So this is the key here. There's no one answer for me to say, hey, this is how many tables you should be playing, and this is like the best number of hands you should play per hour, this is how many tables you should play or whatever. But if you ever find yourself online in a situation where you've missed any piece of the action that has happened that takes away from your ability to make the best decision possible, then I think that you're playing too many tables. I know, and this is kind of like the answer that I gave to someone earlier when he was asking me about the PLO or the tournaments, like what you should play, like should I play this game or that cash game or this cash game or that tournament? And it's kind of like the same thing here. When you're dividing your attention into too many different places, you can't really thrive in any one. So if the games you're playing are really, really easy, you could give up a little bit of your win rate per table in favor of playing more tables because your overall win rate goes up, because having more tables doesn't decrease your win rate by the increased win rate of having an extra table. I get it. And if that's your goal, is to make money and you're playing online poker like playing for the hourly rate, I get it. That's important to do. And you should do that. But there's a few downsides to that, and you cannot really improve at poker when you're not fully immersed in the decision you're making. So all the deeper level thinking happens during the hand when you have a lot of times to think creatively about all these different variables and solutions you're going to do. And I feel like that's lost in the process of online poker when you're sped up making these super quick decisions. You've taken that ability to grow away from your own game. So your game has been reduced to a more robotic state, and that's going to hinder your growth as a poker player. So my challenge to you would be, number one, you should never play more tables than you could play where you're focusing intensely on all the hands if you want to grow. And if you watch some of the best high-stakes players, like they play like 2 tables, and sometimes they play with a lot of the same opponents and whatever. And it's because you can't play like 4 tables or 6 tables of 4 different games and expect to really excel at all of them, because your attention cannot be divided that many places. Now, if you're playing the Sunday tournaments on PokerStars and you're playing 12 tables of tournaments, I get it, because the first 4 levels, like a lot of your decisions are pretty ABC, and the difference in edge is not that big. Fine, but if you really, my challenge to you would be, don't get into the habit of making this a routine, because it makes your poker playing become robotic. You are a product of your habits. You're a creature of habit. So what you do every day will be what you do when you go to the main event final table. You'll be that robotic, non-thinking poker player that just makes a decision, because that's what you've trained yourself to do. That's what you needed to do to thrive, to compete in online poker playing 20 tables of poker. So don't make that your default, and if you should be playing live poker occasionally to counterbalance the times that you're playing online. And if you go to the poker room at the casino and you're like, oh my god, this is so boring, I can't focus, then you've killed your attention span by overloading the impulses in your brain playing online poker too much, just like you overloaded your sensibility to alcohol by drinking 7 shots of tequila every day. I mean, that's what happens. So you have to be cognizant of that, and you have to be really careful to not manipulate your brain too much to be hindering your ability to grow as a poker player. So it's sort of a fine line. I get it that you want to make money. I get it that you want to play more tables, your hourly rate, yada, yada, yada. That's great. But I'm thinking about the big picture here, and I want to get you to playing 3, 4, 5, 10 times as big as you're playing now. And those are the sort of obstacles you're going to face, and those are sort of things that you're going to need to do when you move up in stakes. So to answer your direct question, which I think is almost ancillary, it's not really as important, like how do you think through all the hands when you're playing this many tables? Like, you don't, man. I mean, like, that's sort of the conclusion, is like you can't play as well as you could have played if you're playing less tables, and those are some of the things to consider and some of the concerns. And so you have to balance that. I would play once a week where you're like, I'm going to play one. This is one of the exercises I gave to one of my online clients who came to me. I was like, dude, tomorrow, go there and play 2-4 no limit online, and your goal is just to play 1 table and just not miss anything that happened. You know, who cares about the money? Play smaller than you're normally playing. Just do an exercise to focus on focusing. And, you know, I told him to play smaller than he normally played because I didn't even want the money, the decisions to even be part of his process. I just wanted him to actually focus on, like, thinking creatively about the game to get his mind to the point where, you know, hey, there's, like, new ways to take your game forward that was lost in the daily just robotic, you know, hamster spinning on a wheel online poker. So don't do that. All right, I can't do this without you guys because when you guys talk, I get a break, and when I answer questions on YouTube, I don't get a break. So that's it. 2 questions, done. Guys, I love you. Thanks for joining. This was fun. And,
thank you.
Yeah, do this. Send me some questions on alectorelli.com that you guys like would answered in a future future webinar, and some subjects you guys have, some questions you have. I'll try to get to them or keep them ideas for subject matters here. And again, please share this with someone you know that would like it so I can have them join next time. Everybody, I'm Alec Torelli. Thank you so much, and see you guys. Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, right.
See you guys.
Thanks.